Have you ever seen that movie, They Live? Well, the movie's kind of corny in a way, but it just gives you the idea that, there are those things amongst us. Jesus said they're here. It also says in the Old Testament, be careful how you entertain a stranger. You may be entertaining an angel unaware. Okay, so this is nothing new. I'm not talking about reptilians. I'm just saying there's other things here with us.
He said, Mark, this structure was not built so humans could walk to the top. This structure was built so something else came down and walked down. This is the podium where they presented themselves to the people. This was the landing pad, and they walked down to present themselves. This is the red carpet for the fallen angels. This is the exact location where the sons of God, the fallen angels, came to earth for the first time. They chose the daughters of men and began their campaign of genetic contamination upon the earth at this location. Hermon in the Hebrew is Sherman, which comes from the Hebrew in the word sharam, meaning to seclude by destruction, make accursed, consecrate, and destroy. And by the way, the word consecrate, we're going to see that again in the book of Enoch later on. So as we look at this location, this high place of 9,000 feet with a flat level top, this location of the first contact between fallen angels and humans, first contact, of course, being since the fall of Adam and Eve at the Garden of Eden, we can now see where the inspiration has come from in the building of structures to reach unto heaven. This became temples of worship to the gods. One of the earliest forms of this is located in Iraq during the 5,500 years to the time of the ancient Sumerians in the cradle of civilization. Mount Hermon and the replicas. They became more elaborate as time went on. They started including staircases, like the temples that were found in Ur in Iraq. That's just south of Babylon, or south of Baghdad, by the way. Also in the cradle of civilization in the Mesopotamia Valley. Here's another pyramid found in Iraq. With the exception of smooth-faced pyramids, such as the ones found in Giza that we saw, most pyramids throughout the world were built with a flat top, and they had steps leading to that flat top. These are referred to as step ziggurats. Some of these step ziggurats had waiting rooms built on the flat top, and we'll look at a few of these in a minute. But after the flood, we read in Genesis chapter 11 that the people wanted to build a structure that would reach unto heaven. Now God was again dismayed at this, because this reaching unto heaven was in fact a contact of the fallen angels once again. They weren't talking about the kingdom of heaven, they were talking about second heaven, the universe, okay? And remember, we read in Genesis chapter 6, there were giants in those days, before the flood, and also after that, after the flood. But this time, God slowed down this external intervention by destroying the Tower of Babel, which was one of the first earlier built step ziggurats, and he confounded their language of the people from one single language to many forms of language, and then he dispersed them all over the earth. And yet the people retained the knowledge of pyramid building, and this continued in isolated regions of the earth far from the original center of civilization, which was at that time Mesopotamia or the Middle East. But obviously, after the flood, genetic contamination had only occurred on a smaller scale and isolated only to scattered civilizations throughout the world, because God obviously did not find it necessary to destroy the earth again with a second flood. As the people were dispersed and migrated throughout the world, pyramids continued to be built in Mexico, South America, and South America as well as China, India, and Europe. This is the Sun Pyramid in Mexico. I'm going to share something with you. The Lord gives me pieces of information once in a while, and that's through Spirit, okay? And I'm going to tell you something. Is that this is, again, is a replica of Mount Sherman, okay? High top mountain, look at this region. You see this lady here, right here? She's about, let's say she's 6 feet. Based on her heights, this platform right here is 14 feet tall. Each stair, there's 12 stairs. Each of those stairs are 14-inch stairs. That's not built on a normal human step. But this is what the Lord showed me. He said, Mark, this structure was not built so humans could walk to the top. This structure was built so something else came down and walked down. This is the podium where they presented themselves to the people. This was the landing pad, and they walked down to present themselves. This is the red carpet for the fallen angels. They went to elaborate lengths to build this. This is a depiction in Mexico of what one of the cities looked like. In fact, a lot of the cities are in ruins, okay, and they're also overrun by jungles, by the way. But they were very elaborate cities back then in ancient Mexico. In fact, halfway around the world, Mexico, Central America, was a second land of Canaan. The fallen angel influence was very strong. When Jesus was walking on the earth in the Middle East, in Israel, at the same time, this was going on halfway around the world. In the Mayan culture, civilization, these pyramids had special purposes. Some pyramids were used for God worship, to make the God come down from the sky. In fact, in the Mayans, a young maiden was chosen from the village and led up the staircase to one of the top of the step ziggurats, where a special room was waiting, okay, for the god, small g, to take her as his, and demigods were produced from this unholy union. This is spoken about plainly in Mayan historical artifacts, as well as many other ancient cultures throughout the entire world. This is ingrained in their cultures. Other step ziggurat pyramids were used for human sacrifice for their gods. As mentioned previously, Satan and the fallen angels encouraged sacrifice offerings and escalated it to a whole new level. Other ancient temples of the world are in a circular formation. This one's well known as the Temple of Stonehenge, located in Salisbury, England. This temple is estimated to have been built about 2500 BC, although the actual builders are not known. At this location, the ancient Druid priests would call on the gods from the heavens to come down to this temple. This is why this temple is aligned with the stars and the movements of the sun. It's also a site where human sacrifice took place in the past. This is a depiction of what the actual altar looks like. The black stones are the ones that are still erect, and the white stones are the ones that are missing or fallen down. Okay, but this temple had an altar in the center of it. In fact, all on the outside of Stonehenge, on the outside perimeter, they found Bronze Age barrels, which are human graves. Okay, there are hundreds and hundreds of graves that are scattered outside the perimeter of Stonehenge. People were sacrificed at the altar, and they were buried on the outskirts. Here's another example of a circular temple at Easter Island off the coast of South America. These giant humanoid-looking statues are facing in a circle out to the ocean on this island. Here's another circular temple that's located in Israel called the Rujam Hiri, also known as the Gilga Raphaim, referring to the Temple of the Giants. It's 155 meters in diameter, 1.5 times the football field. It's located 10 miles from the town of Ashtoreth. Ashtoreth was one of the false gods worshipped by the land of Canaan back in the ancient times of Israel. This has been dated back to 3000 BC. It sits on a raised platform, again on a high place. The temple is only visible from the sky above. The more you research ancient cultures, their worship and belief systems, their temples, and what they built all over the world, you will find common threads that bind them all together. They all were preoccupied with the heavens above, and they were all preoccupied with the gods that they said came down from the heavens above. In fact, here's an example of God's word that clearly demonstrates that it is His will that these altars, these places of false worship, are to be destroyed. 2 Chronicles 14:2-3. And Asa did that which was good and right in the eyes of the Lord and his God, for he took away the altars of the strange gods, the high places, and break down the images and cut down the groves. Fallen angels will present themselves as aliens in the end times. from other worlds, heavenly bodies, genetic experiments. At the heart of alien abductions is genetic alteration. Satan has a different plan. His plan in the days of Noah was to present themselves as gods, pass themselves off as gods. They were received wholeheartedly, embraced. Look what happened to the world. Now, some people will say, what does UFOs have to do with Noah's time? Well, this is going to astound you. If you are able to make all four parts, you're going to see a huge picture that you've never seen before. Scripturally speaking, evidence speaking, and this is the scenario that's going to play out in Operation Majestic, the Secret Covenant, as the part B of the line of the four parts is going to be extremely intense. First Enoch 7:7. Then the fallen angels, they swore altogether, all bound themselves by mutual execrations. There's that word again. Their whole number was 200, who descended upon Ardis, which is the top of Mount Armon. The fallen angels make a pact between themselves. Now, specifically 200 of them make this pact to interfere with mankind. And as we read in Jude, verse 6, in the Bible, the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he have reserved in everlasting chains. This is in fact referring to this special group of 200 fallen angels, which means there are millions of fallen angels that are not in chains at this time. Also, Ardis, the top of Mount Armon, is the exact same Mount Hermon that we just covered earlier as the exact spot where the fallen angels first descended to earth. So Armon is the exact reference to Mount Hermon. First Enoch 7:11-13. And the women conceived brought forth giants, whose stature was at least 300 cubits. These devoured all which the labor of men produced, until it became impossible to feed them, when they turned themselves against men in order to devour them. Now this states quite clearly that the earthly women gave birth to giants. And as we read in Numbers chapter 13:32, in the land of Canaan was a land that eateth up the inhabitants. Cannibalism. Canaan, Baal-ism. Cannibalism. Here too, it stated that also before the flood, the giants turned to eating humans. At that time, before the flood. First Enoch 8:1-9. Moreover, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, the fabrication of mirrors, and the workmanship of bracelets and ornaments, the use of paint, the beautifying of the eyebrows, the use of stones of every valuable and select kind, and all sorts of dyes, so that the world became altered. Impurity increased, fornication multiplied, and they transgressed and corrupted all their ways. Amazarek taught all the sorcerers, the dividers of roots. Armors taught the solution of sorcery. Barkael taught the observers of the stars. Achabil taught signs. Tamil taught astronomy. And Asaverdil taught the most fornication. And men destroyed, cried out, and their voice reached unto heaven. It's plain to see that the fallen angels' influence on mankind was great indeed. Understand that God is the creator. Understand that the angels witnessed God creating everything in the universe, even those things that have not up the staircase to one of the top. Now, the fallen angels do not have all the full knowledge that God has, but they certainly know more knowledge of the aspects of the creation than what man does or what man can ever imagine. First Enoch 10:4. Then explain to him the consummation which is about to take place. For all the earth shall perish. The waters of the deluge shall come upon the whole earth, and all things which are in it shall be destroyed. Prior to the scripture, one of the fallen angels pleads with Enoch to go before God to ask for his forgiveness for their involvement in the altering of his creation. God is telling Enoch here to go back to the fallen angels and tell them the bad news, that he's planning to destroy the earth in the near future.